Cleary Presents, a unique look at Northwest Arkansas with music, interviews, drama, and personalities. And now, here's Mike.
Welcome to Mike Cleary Presents. It's October here in Northwest Arkansas. Well, I suppose it's October pretty much everywhere else in the world for that matter. But with the coming of October in Bella Vista, we have the changing of the seasons, the leaves on the trees changing colors, cooler weather, and of course, Halloween. I love Halloween, mostly because it's a holiday that promotes candy. Personally, I would like to see more holidays associated with candy, but that's just me. Some folks look forward to Halloween with excitement and anticipation. They love decorating their homes, dressing up in costumes, and exploring the spookier sides of our nature. Other people don't particularly enjoy the holiday because some of the traditions of Halloween frighten them. Well, allow me to put some of those fears to rest. I am here to explain a few of the characters associated with Halloween. The first is our good old friend, the jack-o'-lantern. A jack-o'-lantern is typically a pumpkin or other kind of gourd hollowed out with a candle inside. What, you may ask, does the mutilation of poor vegetables have to do with Halloween? People have been making jack-o'-lanterns at Halloween for centuries. The practice originated from an Irish myth about a man nicknamed Stingy Jack. Well, according to the story, Stingy Jack invited the devil to have a drink with him. True to his name, Stingy Jack didn't want to pay for his drink, so he convinced the devil to turn himself into a coin that Jack could use to buy their drinks. Once the devil did so, Jack decided to keep the money and put it in his pocket next to a silver cross, which prevented the devil from changing back into his original form. Jack eventually freed the devil under the condition that he would not bother Jack for 1 year, and that, should Jack die, he would not claim his soul. The next year, Jack again tricked the devil into climbing into a tree to pick a piece of fruit. And while he was up in the tree, Jack carved a sign of the cross into the tree's bark so that the devil could not come down until the devil promised Jack not to bother him for 10 more years. Soon after, Jack died. And as the legend goes, God would not allow such an unsavory figure into heaven. The devil, upset by the trick that Jack had played on him, and keeping his word not to claim his soul, would not allow Jack into hell. So he sent Jack off into the dark night with only a burning coal to light his way. And Jack put the coal into a carved out turnip and has been roaming the earth with it ever since. The Irish began to refer to this ghostly figure as Jack of the Lantern, and then simply Jack-o'-lantern. In Ireland and Scotland, people began to make their own versions of jack-lanterns by carving scary faces into turnips or potatoes and placing them into windows or near doors to frighten away Stingy Jack and other wandering evil spirits. In England, large beets are used. immigrants from these countries brought the jack-o'-lantern tradition with them when they came to the United States. They soon found that pumpkins, a fruit native to America, made perfect jack-o'-lanterns. So we can thank old Stingy Jack for starting the tradition of putting candles in carved pumpkins for Halloween. But why on Halloween? Well, Halloween is a holiday on the last day of October, because in Europe, November 1st was known as All Saints' Day. The ancient Celts believed that the coming of winter was a sign of the new year, and the souls of the departed would return to their homes before their trip to the other world. People would light bonfires to ward away evil spirits and wear masks to avoid being recognized by ghosts and demons. So October 31st came to be known as All Hallowed Evening, and was shortened to Halloween, and eventually Halloween. That's why folks dress up in costumes, usually scary ones, to keep away bad spirits before the coming of the new season. Which brings us to witches. In the earliest century of human civilization, witches were the women who served the goddesses, and therefore were revered throughout their communities. Trained in the sacred arts, these priestesses became known as wise women and may have been some of the earliest manifestations of what we now recognize as a witch. Well, before Christianity spread throughout Europe, every village had a wise woman, or a crone, who handled all the medical issues of the local folks. These wise women made house calls, delivered babies, dealt with infertility, and cured impotence. They mixed herbs and tonics to address a great many maladies of the day. The witch would often dispense potions or elixirs for whatever ailment a person might be experiencing, while the priests felt their power was threatened by these women who were dispensing medicines. And the priests convinced the villagers that only God could heal the sick, and that these witches were actually causing the illnesses to make themselves feel needed. They painted witches as being wicked and in league with the devil. They labeled female healers as practicing paganism, and early Christians came to believe that all witchcraft was evil and dangerous. That's the primary image we have of witches to this very day. A wretched hag stirring a bubbling cauldron of her sinister brew. But just as there are people that are good and nasty people, there are wicked witches and good witches. When we watch the classic film The Wizard of Oz, we usually only remember the green-faced wicked witch of the West. We forget about Glinda the Good Witch of the North, who helped Dorothy get back home to Kansas. There was a long-running Hallmark series called The Good Witch, where curio shop owner Cassie Nightingale dispenses natural remedies for insomnia, headaches, and aching joint pain. And she is revered in her community of Middleton as the go-to gal whenever someone has a physical or mental problem. And Cassie has been described as the embodiment of love and warmth, always having her doors open to her friends and even strangers. She listens to everyone's problems and advises them on how to proceed, showing her wisdom and unique way of helping others. She loves and forgives unconditionally, always seeing the best in people and offering help whenever she is able. Not exactly the portrayal of the typical witch associated with Halloween. Let us not forget the old television series Bewitched. Samantha Stevens and her quirky family of wizard uncles and witchy aunts are more amusing than scary. However, Sam's husband, Darren, may argue that Sam's mother and Dora often fostered the impression of the stereotypical wicked witch. Witches, like people, have their good sides and their bad sides. So don't be too quick to pass judgment, even when it comes to witches. And of their companions, black cats, for that matter. Well, speaking of black cats, the pilgrims of the early 17th century believed that the black cat served as a symbol of the supposed evils and satanic sympathies of the witches. As a result, those found harboring black cats would often receive harsh punishments. Some would even be sentenced to death. Even still today, black cats have a bad rap. Those who are superstitious believe it's bad luck to have a black cat cross your path. However, in several countries such as Scotland, Britain, and Japan, the presence or appearance of a black cat is indicative of imminent good fortune and prosperity. Black cats need a little positive PR, as their reputation as an omen of bad luck is well known and mostly unearned. In fact, October 27th is National Black Cat Day. So on that day, cut those little fellows a little slack. It is their day after all. Halloween is not all about scariness and ghoulish decorations. It's about celebrating the ancient traditions of the early Celts and remembering legendary figures like old Stingy Jack. And of course, there is candy, which in my opinion is reason enough to continue those holiday traditions. Well, we'll be right back with more Mike Cleary Presents right after these messages. Welcome back to Mike Cleary Presents. Trick or treat. That's a familiar phrase we hear whenever Halloween comes around. Kids and sometimes adults get dressed up and go door to door, ringing the doorbell and expecting to receive a treat. Heaven help the hapless homeowner who doesn't have any candy to share. He may wake up the next morning to find the trees in his yard decorated with toilet paper or be the victim of some other trick. Trick or treat. How is that phrase pertinent to our personal growth and spiritual well-being? Well, metaphysically speaking, how many times have we felt the phrase trick or treat to be an expression of our life experience? Either happy times, which is a treat, or the bad times, which is a trick. The up times are when things are going good and we feel like life is treating us well. Or the down times when we feel like the world is playing a trick on us. Trick or treat. Perhaps we need to take a look at our perspective of our Earth's journey experience and see if we perceive our life in those black and white terms, either positive or negative, good or bad, trick or treat, maybe our mind is tricking us into thinking that some experiences are bad and not simply treats in disguise. Serendipity is often disguised as a mishap or unexpected turn. All too often we end up unintentionally tricking ourselves. There's an old expression, keep your eyes on the prize. However, when we focus too intently on the reward, we leave ourselves open and vulnerable to be tricked. Many people fall for scams and hucksters promising something fabulous, only to realize too late that they've been conned. If it looks too good to be true, it may be. Whenever something unexpected or unfortunate happens to us, it might be a good practice to stop and ask ourselves, trick or treat? My wife Sharon and I were driving back home to Arkansas after visiting my mother in Wisconsin. We were heading west on Highway 44 from St. Louis toward Joplin, Missouri, when we ran into a major traffic jam. I mean, traffic was stopped for miles. We couldn't tell if it was from an accident, construction, or some other reason. We were parked on the highway for over an hour. At last, the line of vehicles began to creep along at a snail's pace. Sharon and I believed the universe was tricking us. We could have easily taken another route, but regrettably ended up in an extended highway parking lot. After another hour of inching along, we saw a sign for an exit about a mile ahead, so we decided to take it, not caring where it would lead us. Getting lost was better than going nowhere, so we crawled along the side of the road past numerous parked cars to the exit ramp. As we crossed the bridge over the highway, we could see the line of vehicles stretching miles into the distance. Could have been delayed in that traffic for the rest of the day. As it turned out, we happened upon a very quaint little flea market and antique shop that we hadn't visited before. We had a great time chatting with the owner about our travels and our adventures. Our unexpected detour turned out to be a real treat after all. Sometimes the universe has a way of forcing us to pay attention. It may have been our purpose all along to stop at that antique mall, and it took a major traffic jam for us to get there. Remember that old television program hosted by Alan Funt? The catchline for the show was, "Don't be surprised if sometime, somewhere, someplace, when you least expect it, someone steps up to you and says, 'Smile, you're on candid camera.'" The participants think someone is playing a trick on them, but it turns out to be a harmless and humorous gag. We have to catch ourselves whenever we feel we're being tricked and consider the possibility that maybe it's only a silly prank. Sometimes it takes a trick for us not to take ourselves and the world so seriously. A good friend of mine believes he has been cursed by a witch. Perhaps it's true. These things can happen. I'm not one to judge. But anyway, my friend firmly believes that a woman has put a spell on him. And every bad thing that ever happens to him is a result of this witch's curse. I told my friend that if he believes this woman has power over him, then it's true. She does. What you register as truth in your mind is what you will experience in your life. If you think another person has control over life, you do. They do. And if you're convinced that you are being tricked, then you are. We can convince ourselves that someone or something is punishing us. We raise our eyes to the sky and beg, "Why me, Lord?" Wouldn't we be shocked The answer that came back was, smile, you're on candid camera. Trick or treat. Good and bad, yin and yang. Not all tricks are bad, just as not all treats are good. It's our perceptions of our experiences that determine what they will be. Thank you for joining me and watching Bella Vista Community Television. I'm Mike Cleary, and until next time, have a fabulous day.